Welcome to this week's Cattle Call. I'm Susan Littlefield on the Rural Radio Network. What a difference a day can make, and not to the good. We'll talk more about what happened between Wednesday and Thursday in this cattle trade. We've got, of course, like everybody else, the outside market influence pressure that's on there. But are we getting a little sloppy in these markets, and are we trying to recruit or maybe not recruit enough when it comes to the buyer side of the trade? And where are the cattle on the weights? We're going to take a look at that and a whole lot more on today's episode. As you can see, Brad Kooima is joining me. He is with Kooima and Varlick out of Sioux Center, Iowa. So disappointing Thursday for this cattle trade. Sure, nothing like what we saw on a Wednesday.
Yeah, no, you're right. Thanks for having me on, of course, again, Susan. The old, I must have more of these dumb sayings than most of your interviewees, but one of my favorites, when you whip the horse, he had better run. Okay. In other words, when the news is bad, you would expect the market to sell off. When the news is good, you would anticipate that the market would rally. Well, I thought the news was okay today. And much like it was yesterday, where you've got a generally firming tone to the cash market. For instance, last week I sold cattle at 146. Today I passed 147. We'll see if that's where two fools met or not, but I think we're going to get to 148. In fact, I know that there was a little bit of 148 traded in Nebraska here about an hour or so ago, which is certainly higher from last week. The South at 144, generally steady to $1 higher down there as well. So, this strengthening, grinding higher type cash market, good sign, still is the underpin, to me, a fundamental of the market. And the huge kill, the packer willing to take on supply. Clearly, he's got meat sold, although he wouldn't be doing that. And a little bit of improvement in the box beef. So some of the raw fundamentals of the market continue to me, be a little bit encouraging. So, one could say, well, you're 65 higher today on October, Brad, and only a nickel lower on December. Is that so bad? No. But again, with a little bit of good news, I was hoping maybe we'd have another positive day here across the board. And the feeder cattle, were especially disappointing today with the corn sharply lower. I was kind of surprised the feeder cattle didn't act a bit better today, Susan.
But is there a lot of outside market pressure that's kind of building up into this trade for these cattle right now?
Well, I think so. Specifically in the feeder cattle, I think it's destroyed some of the confidence of the buyers. Higher interest rates, uncertainty with, it's amazing what's part of our market. We got to worry about a London bank, Australian deal, OPEC oil prices, blah, blah, blah. It's overwhelming finally. And it is for me, and I'm in the business. I can only imagine that, if you were thinking, well, should I buy some feeder cattle? I don't know. I think I'll wait. I'll take a week off. So you've seen a little softer cash trade in the feeders as well. But that also translates over here to the live cattle trade, which we, really are talking about. And that's, you got to have somebody that's willing to put their money on the line and buy futures, right? And the open interest here lately has gone down after finally getting a little build up in the open interest, get these funds to come back and have a little interest in their market. Now we've lost about 30,000 open interest again on the last break, which it is what it is. I still believe that the fundamentals at the end of the day are going to take the market higher. But it feels like you just got to take it along draggingly. It's hard work.
This has been a weather market, even on the livestock side, maybe not as heavily as it has been on the grain. But you and I were talking before the program that there was talk and hopes of some rain in the southern plains, and that was having an effect on the trade as well.
Oh, for sure. And I think it's good that you bring it up. To me, the weather is maybe, it's just important a macro influence as some of the other stuff that we referenced earlier. And what I mean by that is, we've talked about this to death. And if somebody doesn't know how I feel about the cattle cycle, then they haven't watched your show. But, the next thing here is to get enough moisture to stop the liquidation of the females, not just the cows, but to stop this exodus of heifers to the feed yard. And I can go through all that data. I just went through it this morning with one of my interns of the incredibly big female slaughter, heifer slaughter that we've had year to date. So the North has had improved conditions, and I know there's some areas that still aren't perfect, but generally there's improving conditions in the North, but not in the South. So yesterday, some of the forecasters were talking about a chance of a big rain, big shift in the weather pattern for the Southwest and the South generally, the wheat areas. You can see how it impacted wheat futures prices here too. And so, that's an encouragement because hopefully if they hopefully they get enough rain there. They'll get the winter wheat in, they'll get it started, and then they'll dare to buy some calves or whatever to graze out, and they'll go much more normal type of placement pattern than we had last year, where there was no wheat graze out hardly at all.
So you talk about these record numbers of heifer slaughters. Does that worry you as we look at the markets a year and a half down the road?
Well, worry or hope, I guess.
Okay.
I guess I choose to be an optimist. I'd like to think that these guys that, like me, that have fed cattle through this last down slug should have a chance that they're turning the saddle as well with tighter numbers. Maybe we could leverage the packer. Do we dare to use that word? Certainly hope so. Into having to pay up a little bit finally. So yeah, I mean, I feel for the rancher that spends generations right building up a cow herd, usually from within, and then have to liquidate that down to basically what they've worked for maybe more than even their generation. So, but as they replace then, and then as they hold back that heifer, right, and to stop culling so many cows, that's that cycle where you have a lot less supply in the fed cattle part. So, yeah, someplace here in the next 12 to 18 months, things are going to get interesting, I believe, unless there's some other major calamity that I don't know what it is yet comes down the pipe. But you would hope that maybe we could go without a black swan event for a little while now.
Brad, what about the recruiting of the buyers out there?
Unfortunately, we're going to have to go higher to get the packer to the fund community come back. And I'd say the first, if you wanted to draw a little star on your chart, put it at 148.50 on December cattle. I think we got to get above 148.40 significantly, and I think that would restore a little confidence in the technical picture of the market, and that these guys are technical traders. So that's a start. I'm not sure, frankly, that there has been enough selling here since the last Commitment of Traders report that I'm not sure the funds aren't even actually a little bit short, some of them. So the first step is let's get a close above 148.50 or so and see if we can start to scare them back out of their position. Now, it might take cash news, but so cash is at 148 today, and October's at 145.32. Come on, folks. I would think the market could, it doesn't look overpriced to me.
As we wrap this up, current on the weights for these cattle?
Absolutely. The weather's been ideal, so these cattle have performed really well. This Thursday weights that came out this morning actually showed a 2-pound decline, which is very contra-seasonally unusual this time of year. The grade still reflects that we're very, very current. Choice has just collapsed, especially in the South. Texas at 58% choice. 58% choice in Texas. Wow. So the demand from a packer standpoint for cattle that'll grade is still very real. So if you've got to pen a nice black cattle someplace, Susan, don't be afraid to ask a lot for them.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for joining us this week.
You're welcome.
Brad Kooima has been joining us. As always, remind folks, commodity futures and options do involve a substantial risk of loss, not suitable for all investors. And that's this week's Cattle Call on the Rural Radio Network.